Hey everyone, and welcome back to Facts That Surprise Even the Smartest Among Us. I'm your host, Alice, and today we're diving into one of those everyday mysteries that's probably made you cringe more than once. You know that feeling? You record your voice on your phone? Or maybe you hear yourself in a video, and you immediately think, is that really what I sound like? Or worse, that can't possibly be my voice. Well, today, we're going to unravel the science behind that phenomenon. And to help us out, we have our resident expert in all things surprising and smart, Smarty. Welcome, Smarty.
I am Smarty. And Alice, it's a pleasure to be here. This topic is one of my favorites because it's so universally relatable. Almost everyone experiences this vocal shock when they hear themselves recorded. It's not just in your head. There's a genuine biological and psychological reason why your recorded voice sounds different from what you perceive in real time.
So glad to hear that, because I sometimes genuinely question if I'm having an auditory hallucination when I listen back to myself. So let's just get straight to it. Why does my voice sound so alien to me on a recording?
The core of the explanation lies in how we typically hear our own voices versus how we hear external sounds, including our recorded voice. When you speak, you actually hear your voice through two distinct pathways simultaneously. Think of it like a stereo system. But one channel is internal and the other is external.
Okay, so two channels. What are they?
The first pathway, and the one we're most familiar with for external sounds, is called air conduction. This is straightforward. When you speak, sound waves travel through the air, enter your ear canal, make your eardrum vibrate, and those vibrations are then processed by your middle and inner ear. This is how everyone else hears your voice.
Right, that's the standard way sound works. Makes total sense.
Exactly. But the second pathway, which is unique to how you hear your own voice, is bone conduction. When you vocalize, the vibrations from your vocal cords don't just radiate outwards into the air. They also travel directly through the bones in your head, your jawbone, your skull, even your teeth, directly to your inner ear. It's like your head becomes a resonating chamber for your own voice.
Wow, so my head is basically acting like a built-in speaker for myself? That's wild.
In a way, yes. And this bone conduction pathway plays a critical role in how your voice sounds to you. The vibrations traveling through bone tend to carry lower frequencies more efficiently than air does. This means that when you hear your own voice live, you're getting a richer, deeper, and often fuller sound, because those lower frequency vibrations are enhanced by the bone conduction.
Ah, so that's where the bass comes from. The internal bass boost, if you will.
Precisely. It's like having a personal subwoofer inside your head that no one else gets to experience. So the voice you're accustomed to hearing, your normal voice, is a combination of both the air-conducted sound and this internally enhanced, deeper bone-conducted sound.
And then, when I listen to a recording, that internal subwoofer is suddenly unplugged.
That's a perfect analogy, Alice. When you listen to a recording of your voice, whether it's on your phone, a podcast, or a video, you are only hearing it through air conduction. The bone conduction pathway is completely bypassed, so all those lower frequencies that your skull was resonating directly to your inner ear are now absent.
Which means the voice on the recording is actually closer to how everyone else hears me, not how I hear myself.
Exactly. That's the key takeaway. What you hear on a recording is, in fact, a more accurate representation of how the rest of the world perceives your voice in real time. It's often higher pitched and less resonant than what you're used to, simply because those bone-conducted low frequencies are gone.
Okay, that's a revelation. So if I think my recorded voice sounds strange or even a bit annoying, it's not because the recording is faulty, but because my internal hearing is biased.
Absolutely. And it's not just a physical phenomenon, there's a psychological component to this as well. We develop a strong self-image and self-perception, which includes how we believe our voice sounds. When the auditory input from a recording doesn't match that long-established internal perception, it can create a sense of dissonance or even mild shock. Your brain has created a vocal identity for you based on decades of combined air and bone conduction.
So it's not just my ears, it's my brain saying, wait, that's not my voice.
Pretty much. Your brain is flagging an inconsistency. It's a very natural reaction. It's similar to how some people are surprised by how they look in a mirror versus a photograph. A mirror image is reversed, but we get used to it. A photo shows us as others see us, and that can feel jarringly unfamiliar.
That's a great comparison. So if someone wants to get used to their recorded voice, what's the trick? Just Listen to it more?
That's the most straightforward approach. The more you listen to your recorded voice, the more your brain adapts and starts to integrate this new auditory information into your self-perception. Over time, that initial weirdness can lessen, and you might even start to appreciate the nuances of your own external vocal characteristics. It's a process of neural adaptation.
Fascinating. So essentially our brains are just very accustomed to a specific, unique sensory input when we speak, and recordings just present a different, albeit more objective, view. It's like discovering a new angle of yourself.
Exactly, and it highlights how our perception isn't always a direct, unbiased reflection of reality. Our senses are constantly interpreting and filtering information. Think about it. Our bodies are designed to give us the most efficient and useful information for survival, not necessarily the most objective scientific truth about every single phenomenon.
That's a profound thought. So this recorded voice phenomenon isn't a flaw, it's just a byproduct of our amazing sensory system.
Precisely. And it's not just unique to humans. While we don't know if animals recognize their recorded sounds in the same way, the physics of sound propagation through air and through solids applies across the board. The fundamental principles are universal.
Speaking of universal principles, let's delve a bit deeper into the science of sound itself. How do these frequencies work? And why do bones conduct low frequencies so well?
Great question, Alice. Imagine sound as vibrations or waves. These waves have different frequencies, measured in hertz. Lower frequencies have longer wavelengths and tend to travel through denser mediums, like solids, more effectively and with less attenuation than higher frequencies. Air, being a much less dense medium, transmits a broader range of frequencies, but those very low bass tones can dissipate more quickly.
So my skull is literally a better bass conductor than the air around me.
You got it. Your bones are like a natural bass amplifier for your own voice. When those vocal cord vibrations originate, they're not just pushing air out of your mouth, they're also sending tremors directly into your skeletal structure. These tremors then propagate through your skull bones, reaching your cochlea, the organ of hearing in your inner ear, from the inside.
And that internal pathway bypasses all the external filtering or environmental noise that might affect what others hear.
Precisely. When sound travels through the air to another person's ear, it's subject to the acoustics of the room, any background noise, and even how their individual ear canal and eardrum interact with the sound waves. Your bone-conducted sound, however, is a much more direct, internal transmission, unaffected by those external factors.
So does this mean if I put my hand over my mouth, my voice still sounds normal to me because of bone conduction, even if it sounds muffled to everyone else?
That's an excellent real-world example, Alice. Yes, exactly. If you put your hand over your mouth, you're primarily muffling the air-conducted sound. The sound waves trying to escape your mouth are being blocked. But the bone-conducted component of your voice, that internal resonance, remains largely unaffected. So to you, your voice still sounds relatively clear, while to others, it's muffled. It perfectly illustrates the dual nature of our self-hearing.
That's so cool. It's like a secret channel only I can hear. Are there any other everyday examples of bone conduction at play?
Absolutely. Think about how you hear yourself chewing crunchy food like that carrot we talked about in a previous episode. The crunch sounds much louder and more intense to you than it does to someone sitting next to you. That's largely because the vibrations from the chewing are traveling through your jawbone directly to your inner ear.
Oh, wow. That makes perfect sense. So all those loud chewing noises I hear are mostly just for me?
Mostly, yes. You're getting the full, immersive, bone-conducted chewing experience. Another example is when you scratch your head. The sound of your fingernail on your scalp can seem surprisingly loud to you, and that's also due to bone conduction. Or even tapping your finger on your skull.
So bone conduction is a fundamental part of how our bodies work with sound, not just a weird side effect for our voice.
Exactly. It's a crucial sensory pathway that contributes to our overall auditory perception and balance. It's what allows us to process our own speech in a way that feels natural to us. Without it, even our live voice would sound strange to ourselves.
This is truly mind-blowing. So when people hear famous singers or public speakers and comment on their rich voice, is that what they're hearing? The air-conducted version that sounds less rich than what the speaker hears themselves?
Yes, absolutely. The richness and resonance that an audience perceives in a singer or speaker's voice is purely from the air-conducted sound. Imagine how much deeper and richer that voice must sound to the singer themselves, with that added bone-conducted resonance. It's part of the challenge for vocalists. They have to learn to adjust their singing based on external feedback, not just their internal perception.
That makes vocal training even more impressive. They're essentially learning to control a voice that sounds different to them than it does to their audience.
Precisely. It's a skill that involves a lot of practice and often relies on external monitoring, like studio headphones, to hear themselves more objectively. This external feedback helps them bridge that gap between their internal, bone-conducted perception and the air-conducted sound that their audience hears.
So what about those bone conduction headphones? Are they using this same principle?
They are, but in reverse. Traditional headphones send sound waves through the air, into your ear canal. Bone conduction headphones sit on your cheekbones or near your temples and send vibrations directly through your bones to your inner ear, bypassing your eardrums entirely. This leaves your ear canals open, allowing you to hear ambient sounds around you while still listening to audio.
That's incredibly clever. So they simulate that internal listening experience, but for external audio.
Yes, they essentially replicate the bone conduction pathway for external sounds. It's a great application of this biological principle for specific uses, like running or cycling, where you need to be aware of your surroundings, or for people with certain types of hearing loss.
This is all so fascinating, Smarty. It completely changes how I think about listening to my own voice and even how I perceive sound in general.
That's the beauty of understanding these underlying principles. It turns something that felt jarring or uncomfortable into a moment of scientific curiosity. And it reminds us that our bodies are incredible, complex instruments.
So for anyone listening who's still a bit uncomfortable with their recorded voice, what's your final Smarty advice?
My advice is to embrace it. Don't view it as weird or bad. View it as an objective truth. It's how the world hears you, and it's likely perfectly fine, even if it's unfamiliar to your own internal ears. The more you expose yourself to it, the more your brain will adapt, and that initial sense of disconnect will fade. It's just another part of learning and adapting to yourself.
That's a truly Smarty perspective. It's all about perspective and understanding the science behind it. Thank you so much for shedding light on this everyday mystery, Smarty.
Always a pleasure, Alice. Stay curious, everyone.
And to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Facts That Surprise Even the Smartest Among Us. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the sounds of your own voice. Join us next time for another surprising discovery that will make you think differently about the world around you. Until then, keep those ears open and keep exploring.